You're a burden now." Those words hit harder than any physical blow could have. I watched my husband of 8 years pack his designer suitcase while I stood frozen in our bedroom doorway, mascara running down my cheeks. I'm Gianna, and until yesterday, I was living what I thought was the perfect life. Executive position at a leading tech firm, beautiful home in Seattle, and a marriage I believed was unshakable. Funny how quickly perfect can crumble. "Holden, please," I whispered, hating the tremor in my voice. "We can figure this out. The layoff was unexpected, but I have savings, connections. I'll find something new." He barely glanced at me as he folded his expensive shirts. "You said that 2 months ago, Gianna. 2 months of watching you mope around the house, sending out resumes like they're message bottles lost at sea." He zipped the suitcase with finality. "I didn't sign up for this." "Didn't sign up for what? Supporting your wife through a rough patch?" My voice gained strength as anger started to replace shock. "What happened to for better or worse? That was before the market crashed and your entire division got axed." Holden straightened his tie in the mirror, ever the polished investment banker. "I need a partner, not dead weight." My phone buzzed. A text from Riley. "Girl, you okay? Haven't heard from you all day." I ignored it, focusing on the man I thought I knew. 8 years together, and this is how you handle our first real challenge? Challenge? He laughed, the sound cold and unfamiliar. "You want to talk about challenges? Try explaining to my colleagues why my wife's been unemployed for months. Try maintaining our lifestyle on one income." "Wha, our lifestyle?" I gestured around our bedroom, at the art pieces he'd insisted on buying. "You mean your lifestyle? The one I helped build when I was making 6 figures? And now you're making 0. He grabbed his suitcase. "I'll have my lawyer contact you about the divorce proceedings." The word divorce echoed in my head like a gunshot. "Where are you going?" "The Four Seasons downtown. Don't try to contact me." He brushed past me, his expensive cologne, a gift I'd bought him last Christmas, making me nauseous. I followed him downstairs, watching as he collected his keys and wallet from the entry table. "So that's it? 8 years thrown away because I hit a rough patch?" He paused at the door, finally meeting my eyes. "No, Gianna. 8 years thrown away because you proved you're not who I thought you were. Success suited you. This." He waved his hand dismissively at me. "This version of you? She's pathetic." The door closed behind him with a soft click that felt like thunder. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Naomi. "Hey G, missed you at coffee this morning. Everything okay?" I sank onto my leather couch, staring at the Seattle skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. The same view I'd celebrated with champagne when I landed my executive role 3 years ago. Holden had been so proud then, showing me off at corporate events like a prize thoroughbred. The buzzing continued. Riley again. "Seriously worried. Call me ASAP." My fingers trembled as I typed, "Holden left. He's filing for divorce." The response was immediate. "What? I'm coming over. Don't move." 20 minutes later, Riley burst through my door, using her emergency key. Her dark curls were wild, like she'd run all the way from her apartment. "Tell me everything," she demanded, pulling me into a fierce hug. As I recounted the morning's events, Riley's expression darkened. "That materialistic bastard," she spat. "I never liked him. Always thought he saw you more as an asset than a wife." "I should have seen it coming," I admitted, wiping fresh tears. The way he'd tense up whenever I mentioned job interviews, how he stopped inviting me to his work functions. "Stop that right now!" Riley gripped my shoulders. "This is not your fault. He showed his true colors the moment things got tough. You deserve better." My phone lit up with Naomi's response to my group text. "Just got out of a meeting. Coming over with wine and pizza. We're not letting you go through this alone." Looking at these messages of support, something shifted inside me. The devastation began to harden into something else. Determination, maybe. Or rage. "You know what the worst part is?" I told Riley, my voice steadier now. "He thinks this is my rock bottom, that losing him is the final nail in my coffin." Riley's eyes gleamed. "But it's not, is it?" "No." I stood up, walking to the window where Seattle's tech district sparkled in the distance. It's my starting line. 3 empty wine bottles lined my coffee table, surrounded by pizza crusts and crumpled napkins. Naomi paced the living room, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors, while Riley sprawled on the couch beside me. "What if," Naomi said, stopping mid-stride, "we turned this whole thing on its head?" I lifted my head from the throw pillow. "What do you mean? Remember that startup idea you pitched to the board last year? The one they shot down because it was too risky? The AI-driven personal finance platform?" I sat up straighter. "What about it?" Riley's eyes widened. "Oh my God, yes. You were so passionate about that project. What did you call it?" "Wealthwise," I said softly, memories flooding back. "A platform that would make financial planning accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy elite." "Exactly!" Naomi grabbed her laptop from her bag. "The market needs something like this now more than ever. With the recession hitting, people are desperate for affordable financial guidance." "But starting a company takes money," I protested. "In case you forgot, I'm unemployed." Actually," Riley sat up, looking slightly guilty. "Remember Samson from grad school? He's been doing really well with his venture capital firm. We've kept in touch, and he always said if I ever heard of a promising startup." "You want me to pitch to Samson?" My voice cracked. "I haven't even updated my business plan." "Then let's update it." Naomi opened her laptop. "Right now. You've got me for strategy, Riley for networking, and your brilliant tech mind. What else do we need?" I stood up and walked to my home office, returning with a thick folder. "This is everything from the original proposal, market research, user interface designs, preliminary code architecture." "Holy shit!" Riley breathed, flipping through the pages. "You really did think of everything." "Of course she did. She's Gianna." Naomi started typing furiously. "And now we have an even better angle, targeting people affected by the economic downturn. People like me," I finished. "People who thought they were financially secure until everything fell apart." "Exactly." Riley pulled out her phone. "I'm texting Samson right now. He owes me a favor anyway." My hands started shaking. "This is crazy. Starting a company in the middle of a divorce?" "No," Naomi said firmly. "This is perfect timing. You know why? Because you have nothing to lose and everything to prove." The next morning, nursing a slight hangover, I met Samson at his favorite coffee shop downtown. He hadn't changed much since grad school, still sporting his signature bow tie and warm smile. "Gianna," he greeted me with a hug. "Riley filled me in on everything, both the business idea and the personal situation." I flushed. "I'm not looking for pity investments." "Good, because I don't make those." He sat down, pulling out a tablet. "Show me what you've got." For the next hour, I walked him through the Wealthwise concept. My hands steadied as I explained the technical architecture, the market opportunity, the revenue model. It felt good, familiar, like slipping into my old confident skin. "The thing is," I concluded, "people shouldn't need a 6-figure salary to access decent financial advice. Technology can bridge that gap." Samson leaned back, studying me. "You know what I like most about this pitch?" "What?" "You're not just selling a product, you're selling redemption, your own and your future users. That's powerful." My throat tightened. "Does that mean—" "It means I'm in, but not just with money." He pulled out a business card. "I want to be your strategic partner, help you avoid the pitfalls most startups face." "Seriously?" "On one condition." His expression turned serious. "You go all in, no half measures. This becomes your life for the next year at least. Can you do that?" I thought about my empty house, about Holden's sneering face, about all the hours I'd spent doubting myself. "Yes, I can do that." "Then let's talk numbers." He pulled out a contract. "I had my team draw this up after Riley's text. Take it home, review it with a lawyer, but know I'm ready when you are." Later that evening, I stood in my home office, staring at the contract on my desk. My phone buzzed with a text from Holden. "Lawyer will contact you tomorrow. Hope you're being reasonable about all this." I looked at the contract again, then at my reflection in the window. The woman staring back at me wasn't the same one who'd watched her husband walk out. She was someone new, someone stronger. I picked up my phone and texted Samson. "I'm in. Let's change the world." Then I texted Riley and Naomi. "Meeting tomorrow morning. We're launching a company." For the first time in months, I smiled at my reflection. Holden wanted reasonable? He was about to learn that reasonable wasn't in my vocabulary anymore. 6 months, I announced to our small team, standing in our newly leased office space. That's our timeline for the beta launch. 6 months? Nina, our recently hired marketing director, nearly choked on her coffee. That's ambitious for a fintech platform. Ambitious is what we do here. Naomi tapped her tablet, projecting our timeline onto the wall. We've already got the basic architecture in place, and our first round of funding is secured. The office buzzed with energy despite being half-furnished. Boxes of computers and equipment lined the walls, waiting to be unpacked. Through the windows, Seattle's tech district loomed, reminding me of everything I had to prove. "Speaking of funding," Samson walked in, bow tie slightly askew. "We've got our first potential problem." Melanie just joined CompFin as their head of product development. My stomach dropped. Melanie, my former colleague, who'd always resented playing second fiddle to me at our old company. Let me guess. They're suddenly developing something similar? Got it in one. Samson handed me his phone, showing CompFin's press release. They're announcing a revolutionary financial planning platform next quarter. That's 3 months before our launch date, Riley noted, frowning at the screen. They're trying to beat us to market, I said, pacing the room. Melanie knows enough about our old proposal to fast-track a competing product. Nina raised her hand. Quick question, who's Melanie? Someone who's about to learn a hard lesson about underestimating us, Naomi replied, already typing furiously on her laptop. I'm looking at their job postings. They're desperately hiring developers. Which means they're starting from scratch, I realized, a plan forming. They might announce in 3 months, but they won't have a working product. Unless they cut corners, Samson added. Exactly. I grabbed a marker and approached the whiteboard. So we pivot. Instead of launching the full platform in 6 months, we release a stripped-down version in 10 weeks. 10 weeks? The entire room erupted in protests. I held up my hand. Listen, we focus on one core feature, the automated financial advisory algorithm. Make it perfect, make it beautiful, make it impossible to replicate quickly. That could work, Naomi said slowly. We'd need to pull some all-nighters, but we'd beat them to market, Nina finished, excitement building in her voice. And if we nail that first feature, we control the narrative. The next 8 weeks became a blur of coffee-fueled coding sessions and heated strategy meetings. Our small office transformed into a war room, walls covered in user flow diagrams and testing schedules. One evening, as I was reviewing code, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of Holden at a restaurant, sitting close to a blonde woman. Below it, a message. Thought you should know what your ex is up to. M. My hands shook as I showed the photo to Riley, who was working late with me. Melanie's playing mind games, she said, squeezing my shoulder. She wants to throw you off your game before the launch. Well, it's not going to work. I turned back to my computer, channeling my anger into productivity. How's the user interface coming along? 2 days before our surprise launch, disaster struck. Our main server crashed during final testing, taking 3 weeks of work with it. This isn't an accident, Naomi declared, examining the logs. Someone tried to breach our firewall last night. The team gathered in the conference room, faces tired but determined. Options? I asked, looking around the table. We could postpone, Nina suggested carefully. No. I stood up, addressing the room. That's exactly what they want. We've got 48 hours. Who's with me? What followed was the most intense coding marathon of my life. The office became a temporary home, with air mattresses in corners and empty energy drink cans everywhere. Every team member stepped up, going far beyond their job descriptions. At 3 a.m. on launch day, we finished. The platform was ready, streamlined, secure, and beautiful in its simplicity. "Look at this!" Riley called out, showing us CompFin's latest press release. They were postponing their announcement, citing technical refinements. "They blinked," Samson said, grinning. As the sun rose over Seattle, we gathered around my computer. With one click, Wealthwise would go live. I thought about everything that had led to this moment: the betrayal, the doubt, the countless sleepless nights. "Ready?" I asked my team, my new family. They nodded, tired but proud. I pressed enter, and our platform went live. Within hours, user signups started rolling in. By evening, we were trending on tech Twitter. To the beginning, Naomi raised her coffee cup in a toast. "No," I corrected her, watching our user count climb. To revenge served scalding hot. The office erupted in laughter and cheers, while my phone buzzed with another text from Melanie. I deleted it without reading it. She'd learned soon enough that she'd picked the wrong woman to mess with. 1 million users in 3 months. Nina burst into my office, waving her tablet. "We've hit the milestone a full quarter ahead of projections." I was about to celebrate when Samson rushed in, his usual composed demeanor rattled. "Turn on CNBC, now." The wall-mounted TV flickered to life, showing Melanie sitting in a studio, perfectly poised in a designer suit. The caption read, "CompFin executive alleges corporate espionage. Serious concerns about Wealthwise's meteoric rise," Melanie was saying. "Their platform bears striking similarities to proprietary technology developed at our company." "She's lying through her teeth," Naomi snarled, appearing in my doorway. I held up my hand for silence, listening as Melanie continued. "We're preparing legal action to protect our intellectual property." My phone exploded with notifications. Our stock price was already dropping. "Get me everything we have on the original Wealthwise proposal," I told Naomi. "Every email, every timestamp, every signature. Already on it." She disappeared down the hall. Riley burst in next. "Social media is blowing up. We need to respond." "No," Samson interjected. "Any response right now looks defensive. We need something bigger." I stood up, my mind racing. "Nina, call that reporter from Tech Weekly who's been begging for an exclusive. Tell her she's got her story, but we do it live today." "Live? Are you sure?" Nina was already dialing. "Absolutely. Melanie wants to play dirty? Let's see how she handles the truth under studio lights." 2 hours later, I sat in a different studio, facing Sarah from Tech Weekly. The red light blinked on, and we were live. With us today is Gianna, CEO of Wealthwise, responding to serious allegations made this morning. "Gianna, your response?" I smiled, projecting calm confidence. "I'm glad you asked, Sarah. I'd like to share something with your viewers." I held up my old company laptop. This contains the original Wealthwise proposal, dated 18 months ago. I presented it to my former employer's board, where it was rejected. Interestingly, Melanie was in that board meeting. Sarah leaned forward. "Are you suggesting—" "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating facts. Our code is original, our platform is revolutionary, and we have the documentation to prove it. But more importantly, we have something CompFin doesn't: actual users transforming their financial futures." "Speaking of users," Sarah consulted her notes, "your growth has been unprecedented because we solved a real problem. While our competitors were focused on high-net-worth clients, we saw millions of everyday people struggling with financial planning. We didn't just build a platform, we built a community." The interview continued for 30 minutes. By the time it ended, our stock had not only recovered, but surged higher than before. Back at the office, champagne was flowing. "Did you see Melanie's face when they cut to her for comment?" Riley laughed. "She looked like she'd swallowed a lemon." "It's not over," Samson warned, adjusting his bow tie. "She'll try something else." As if on cue, my email pinged. It was from CompFin's CEO, requesting a private meeting. Forward it to legal, Naomi advised, reading over my shoulder. No. I stood up. I want this meeting, but not private and not on their terms. The next morning, CompFin's CEO and Melanie walked into our office. I received them in our glass-walled conference room, deliberately visible to my entire team. Impressive space, the CEO commented, looking around. Thank you. We believe in transparency here. I gestured to the seats. Unlike some companies. Melanie's perfectly manicured nails dug into her designer handbag. We came to discuss a settlement. A settlement? I raised an eyebrow. For what? Your false allegations? Your attempted server breach? Or perhaps for stealing my original concept? The CEO shifted uncomfortably. We prefer to handle this quietly. Like you handled the CNBC interview? I opened my laptop, turning it to face them. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to publicly retract your allegations, and Melanie is going to resign. Or what? Melanie snapped. Or I release the email chain showing you downloaded my original proposal the day before you joined CompFin. The timestamps are quite interesting. The color drained from Melanie's face. The CEO turned to her sharply. You said there was no paper trail. There's always a paper trail, I said softly. The question is, how much damage do you want your company to sustain? 20 minutes later, they left. Within hours, CompFin issued a retraction. By evening, Melanie's resignation was announced. That was masterful, Sampson said as we watched the news coverage. No, I corrected him, thinking of Holden, of all the people who'd underestimated me. That was just the warm-up. Looking out at my team celebrating, I felt a fierce pride. We weren't just building a company, we were building a legacy. And anyone who tried to stand in our way would learn just how expensive that mistake could be. $5 billion. The number hung in the air of our conference room like smoke. That's our final offer. I studied the man across the table. Marcus, CEO of Global Financial Solutions, one of the largest financial technology companies in the world. His reputation for aggressive acquisitions preceded him. It's a generous offer, Sampson admitted, bow tie perfectly straight as he reviewed the terms. Generous? Marcus smiled. It's unprecedented for a company your age. Full retention of your team, autonomy over product development, and you, Gianna, would join our board of directors. I glanced at Naomi, catching the slight shake of her head. Something felt off. We'll need time to review the proposal, I said, standing up to end the meeting. Of course. Marcus gathered his papers. But don't take too long. Offers like this have expiration dates. After he left, my team erupted into chaos. $5 billion! Nina exclaimed. Do you know what that means for everyone's stock options? It means we'd all be set for life, Riley added, but her expression was worried. Though the timing seems suspicious, Naomi finished. Right after we crushed CompFin's allegations and their stock tanked. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Heard about the offer. We should talk. H. My blood ran cold. Holden. Gianna? Sampson touched my arm. You okay? I showed him the text. His eyes narrowed. Think there's a connection? Only one way to find out. I turned to Naomi. Can you dig into Global Financial's recent acquisitions and their board members? Already on it. She was typing furiously. Give me an hour. That hour turned into a late-night strategy session. Nina ordered pizza, while Naomi projected her findings onto the wall. Look at this, she pointed to a chart. Global Financial has acquired 6 companies in the past year. All of them were dismantled within months, their technology absorbed into existing products. So much for autonomy, Riley muttered. But here's the interesting part. Naomi pulled up another screen. 3 weeks ago, they added a new board member, Robert Sterling, managing partner at Sterling Investment Group. Holden's firm, I whispered. Bingo! Naomi crossed her arms. Want to bet who brought this deal to Marcus's attention? My phone buzzed again. Holden. Don't be stupid, Gianna. Take the deal. He's trying to profit from your success, Sampson said, reading over my shoulder. After everything he did. I stood up abruptly, walking to the window. Seattle's lights twinkled below, reminding me of that night I decided to start over. Nina, I called out. What's our current user growth rate? Doubling every month. We're projected to hit 10 million users by quarter's end. And our revenue? Exceeding projections by 40%. I turned back to my team. So why sell? Why now, when we're just getting started? 5 billion reasons, Riley said softly. No. I shook my head. 5 billion reasons to quit, to let Holden win, to prove we're just another startup that got lucky. Samson adjusted his bow tie, a smile playing at his lips. What are you thinking? I'm thinking it's time to show them what we're really worth. I grabbed a marker and approached the whiteboard. Nina, call that reporter from Tech Weekly again. Naomi, get me everything you can on Global Financial's acquisition history, especially the companies they dismantled. What's the play? Riley asked, already pulling out her notebook. They want to buy us? Fine. But we're going to make them work for it. I started writing on the board. First, we leak the offer to the press, but frame it as an hostile attempt to shut down a competitor. That'll drive our stock price up. Samson nodded approvingly. Then we announce our international expansion plans, the ones we've been keeping under wraps. Nina's eyes widened. The European partnership? And the Asian market rollout, I confirmed. By the time we're done, 5 billion will look like pocket change. My phone buzzed one more time. Holden again. Don't let pride cloud your judgment. You know you need this deal. I picked up my phone and finally replied, You're right, I do need this deal, to show you exactly what you walked away from. Then I addressed my team. Tomorrow, we go to war. Not just for our company, but for every person who's ever been underestimated, undermined, or cast aside. Who's with me? The room erupted in determined cheers. As everyone broke into task forces, Samson approached me. You know they'll fight back, he warned. Good. I smiled, thinking of Holden's smug face when he left me. I'm counting on it, because this time, I'm not the one who's going to end up looking pathetic. The city lights seemed brighter now, reflecting the fire in my eyes. Global Financial and Holden were about to learn an expensive lesson. Never try to buy what you couldn't break. The restaurant hostess led me to a private dining room where Holden was already waiting. He stood as I entered, looking exactly as I remembered. Expensive suit, perfectly styled hair, practiced smile. But this time, I felt nothing. Gianna, he said, moving to pull out my chair. You look... Save it. I sat down before he could reach me. You wanted to talk, so talk. He settled across from me, straightening his tie. A nervous habit I used to find endearing. You're making a mistake rejecting Global Financial's offer. Really? Our stock price jumped 15% after we announced our expansion plans. A temporary spike. He leaned forward. Listen, I know you're trying to prove something. Trying, I laughed. Our company is valued at 7 billion now. I'd say I've proven plenty. The waiter arrived with water. Holden waited until he left before continuing. Marcus is losing patience. He doesn't like being played with. Interesting choice of words. I pulled out my phone, showing him the screen. Almost as interesting as these emails between you and Robert Sterling, discussing how to force a hostile takeover of Wealthwise. His face paled slightly. Where did you get those? I have friends in interesting places, friends who actually stick around when things get tough. This isn't personal, Gianna. No? I raised an eyebrow. So you didn't tell Marcus about my emotional instability during the divorce? Didn't suggest I might crack under pressure? He shifted uncomfortably. You're twisting things. Actually, I'm finally seeing things clearly. I opened my portfolio. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to take this back to Marcus and Sterling Investment Group. He glanced at the documents. A counteroffer? A warning. If Global Financial attempts any hostile moves against Wealthwise, these emails go public. I'm sure the SEC would be very interested in the timing of certain stock purchases. You're bluffing. Try me. I stood up. Oh, and Holden, that blonde you've been seeing? Melanie's friend, right? She works for me now. Funny how karma works. His face contorted with anger. You vindictive. Careful, I cut him off. Your true colors are showing. Again. I walked out, leaving him with the bill and the documents. Outside, Riley was waiting in her car. How'd it go? Exactly as planned. I buckled my seatbelt. Call Samson. Tell him to expect Marcus's call within the hour. Back at the office, Naomi was monitoring social media reactions to our expansion announcement. We're trending worldwide. The European markets are especially excited. Perfect timing, Nina added, rushing in. Tech Weekly just ran our feature on democratizing financial planning. The response is incredible. My phone rang. Samson. Marcus just called. He's furious. Says we're making a huge mistake. Good. I put him on speaker. How long until they make their move? Based on their trading patterns? Tomorrow morning. They'll try to trigger a sell-off. They're in for a surprise, Naomi smirked, showing me her screen. Our new security protocol is ready. Let them try to breach our systems now. The next morning, we gathered in the conference room, watching the market open. Right on schedule, large blocks of Wealthwise stock appeared for sale. They're trying to panic small investors, Samson explained. Not trying, succeeding. Riley pointed at the dropping numbers. I picked up my phone and dialed a number. Time to launch Phase 2. Within minutes, news alerts started flashing. Wealthwise announces revolutionary banking partnership. Major European banks sign exclusive deals with Wealthwise. Asian markets welcome Wealthwise innovation. The stock price froze, then began to climb. Now, I told Naomi. She pressed enter, and our new platform feature went live. Instant international money transfers at a fraction of traditional costs. Something we'd been developing in secret for months. My phone buzzed with a text from Holden. You're playing a dangerous game. I replied, no, I'm winning one. By closing bell, our stock had hit a new record high. Global Financial's hostile takeover attempt had failed spectacularly, and Marcus's reputation was taking a hit. Look at this! Nina showed me her tablet. Business headlines were calling it the Tech David and Goliath story of the year. Should we expect retaliation? Riley asked. No, Samson answered, straightening his bow tie. They can't risk the exposure. Those emails Gianna has, they're career enders. I looked around at my team, my real family. Thank you, all of you. This victory belongs to everyone in this room. To us, Naomi raised her coffee cup. To karma, Riley added with a grin. I glanced at my phone one last time. Another text from Holden. I underestimated you. Yes, I whispered, deleting the message. You did. The Seattle skyline stretched before us, but now it didn't look like a reminder of what I'd lost. It looked like the beginning of what I'd won. Sign here and here. My lawyer pointed to the marked lines on the divorce papers. And initial these 3 pages. The penthouse conference room offered a panoramic view of Seattle, the same city where my marriage had crumbled a year ago. Now I was ending it on my terms. Holden sat across the table, his lawyer whispering in his ear. He looked smaller somehow, less intimidating than I remembered. Before we finish, I said, putting down my pen, there's something you should know. He looked up warily. I'm buying your firm's building. His face went slack. What? Sterling Investment Group's lease expires next month. As the new owner, I'm not renewing it. You can't do that, he sputtered. Actually, she can. Samson stepped forward, placing a document on the table. The purchase was finalized this morning. Holden's lawyer grabbed the paper, scanning it frantically. This is legitimate. Of course it is, I smiled, signing the final divorce paper with a flourish. Oh, and the moving company will be there Monday. I'd start packing if I were you. This is petty revenge, Holden snapped. No, this is business. I stood up. You taught me that, remember? When you called me a burden? The lawyers gathered the papers while Holden sat there stunned. As I turned to leave, he called out, "You've changed." "No." I paused at the door. "I've just stopped letting people like you define my worth." Outside, Riley was waiting with champagne. "Is it done?" "Almost." I checked my phone as it buzzed with a news alert. Wealthwise announces major partnership with Asian Financial Coalition. "Our stock just hit another record," Naomi reported, joining us. "The market loves the expansion news." "Perfect timing," I smiled. "Ready for phase 2? We headed to our office, where the team was gathered for an all-hands meeting. Nina had orchestrated everything perfectly. Cameras were set up for the live stream announcement. Going live in 3, 2, 1. The red light blinked on. "Good morning," I addressed the cameras. "Today marks a new chapter for Wealthwise. We're not just expanding globally, we're revolutionizing how people access financial services." I nodded to Naomi, who launched the presentation behind me, introducing Wealthwise Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing financial education and resources to underserved communities. We're pledging $1 billion over 5 years to help those who've been ignored by traditional financial institutions. Social media exploded. Our PR team's screens lit up with notifications. "And that's not all," I continued. "We're also announcing our acquisition of Sterling Investment Group's former headquarters, which will become the Wealthwise Innovation Center, offering free financial literacy programs to the public." The office erupted in applause as I ended the live stream. Sampson approached, grinning. "That was masterful, using Holden's building for public good, poetic justice at its finest." My phone buzzed. A text from Melanie. "I was wrong about you, both of us were." "Delete," I muttered, then addressed my team. "Everyone, listen up." The room quieted. "A year ago, I thought losing my job and my marriage was the end of my story. But you all proved me wrong. You showed me it was just the beginning." "To new beginnings," Riley called out, raising her glass. "And to karma," Nina added. As celebrations broke out around me, I slipped into my office and opened my desk drawer. Inside was the note Holden had left the day he walked out. I'd kept it as a reminder, but now— "You don't need that anymore," Naomi said from the doorway. I crumpled the note and tossed it in the trash. "No, I don't. The foundation announcement is trending worldwide," she reported. "People are calling you a modern-day Robin Hood." I laughed. "Robin Hood stole from the rich. I just beat them at their own game." My phone rang. It was Sampson. "You need to see this. Turn on CNBC." The office TV flickered to life, showing breaking news. Global Financial Solutions CEO Marcus steps down amid investigation. "Those emails we had?" Sampson's voice was gleeful. "Someone leaked them to the SEC." "What a shame," I said, not even trying to hide my satisfaction. "I wonder how that happened." "Karma's not just a concept," Riley chimed in. "Sometimes it's a carefully executed plan." Looking out at the Seattle skyline, I felt a sense of completion. The woman who'd stood crying in her bedroom doorway a year ago was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who'd learned that the best revenge isn't just success, it's success with purpose. My phone buzzed one final time. A text from an unknown number. "You won." I didn't bother responding. He was right. I had won. But more importantly, I'd found something worth fighting for. My own power, my own worth, and a legacy that would help others find theirs too. And now, please welcome our keynote speaker, Wealthwise CEO Gianna. The applause thundered through the convention center as I took the stage at the Women in Tech Summit. The same stage where, just 2 years ago, I'd watched others speak while feeling small and insignificant in my corporate job. "Thank you," I began, setting aside the prepared speech. "But today, I'm not here to talk about success. I'm here to talk about failure." The audience quieted. Specifically, the day I thought my life was over. When my husband walked out, calling me a burden because I'd lost my job. Movement at the back of the hall caught my eye. Holden slipping into the audience. Perfect timing. That man did me a favor, I continued. He showed me that my worth wasn't tied to his approval or anyone else's. But this isn't a revenge story. I gestured to the side of the stage where my team sat. This is a story about finding your real family, about building something meaningful. Nina gave me a thumbs up while Riley wiped away tears. Wealthwise wasn't built on venture capital or market strategies. It was built on second chances. Every person on my team has a story of being underestimated, overlooked, or pushed aside. I clicked to the next slide, showing the Wealthwise Innovation Center, formerly Sterling Investment Group's building. Yesterday, we welcomed our 10,000th student to our free financial literacy program. Next week, we're opening centers in Tokyo and London. But numbers aren't what matter. I pointed to a young woman in the front row. What matters is that Sarah here, who just graduated from our coding boot camp, starts her new job on Monday. Sarah stood up, beaming, as applause broke out. That's what revenge really looks like. Not destroying others, but lifting people up. Creating opportunities, building bridges instead of burning them. From the corner of my eye, I saw Holden stand up, moving toward the exit. To the person leaving right now, yes, you, Holden. Thank you. Thank you for showing me exactly who I didn't want to be. He froze, all eyes turning to him. Success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And sometimes, the people who hurt us become our greatest teachers. Holden slipped out the door as I continued. Last month, someone asked me if I'd forgiven him. The truth is, I have. Not because he deserved it, but because holding on to anger was holding me back. Samson adjusted his bow tie, nodding approvingly from his seat. Today, Wealthwise announces our biggest initiative yet, a $100 million fund for women entrepreneurs starting over, because everyone deserves a second act. The audience erupted in cheers. Naomi projected the application website onto the screen behind me. Applications open today. And yes, we're accepting candidates with no experience, no connections, and especially those who've been called burdens by people too small to see their potential. After the standing ovation, after the interviews and photographs, I found my team waiting backstage. That wasn't the speech we prepared, Nina said, grinning. No, Riley hugged me. It was better. Speaking of better, Naomi checked her phone. Applications are flooding in, over 5,000 already. And guess who just posted on LinkedIn? Samson showed us his screen. Holden had announced his retirement from investment banking, citing personal reasons. Karma really is a patient friend, Riley laughed. Not karma, I corrected her. Growth. He's finally learning what we already know, that true power isn't in tearing people down. My phone buzzed with a text from Melanie. You've built something amazing. I was wrong about everything. This time, I replied. There's room for everyone at the table, even former rivals. Looking at my team, my family, I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. Not the fierce satisfaction of revenge, but the quiet confidence of knowing exactly who I was and what I stood for. Ready to change more lives? I asked them. Always, they responded in unison. Outside, Seattle's skyline sparkled in the evening light. But I wasn't looking at the view anymore. I was looking at the reflection in the window, at a woman who'd turned pain into purpose, betrayal into blessing, and revenge into revolution. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning. And this time, everyone was invited to be part of it. Let's go home, I told my team. We've got work to do, because the best revenge isn't just living well, it's helping others live better too. And that's a story worth telling, again and again, until everyone finds their own power to rise.